You have so many dishonest reporters. Bunch of phony lowlifes. The world's most dishonest people.
The candidate who declared war on the media,
We have to fight the media,
is not changing. Donald Trump is the president-elect now, but he's still acting like a professional media critic, calling the press crooked and venting about unfair campaign coverage. On Tuesday, he woke up and announced on Twitter, I canceled today's meeting with the failing New York Times when the terms and conditions of the meeting were changed at the last moment. Not nice. Not nice?
The New York Times is totally dishonest. I think the New York Times is one of the most dishonest media outlets I've ever seen in my life. I call it the failing New York Times.
Hours later, he flip-flopped and headed cross-town to the Times headquarters. He left the hour-long interview calling the Times a crown jewel, proving once again his love-hate relationship with the news outlets that made him famous. Back on Monday, he invited executives and anchors from 5 major TV networks, including CNN, to Trump Tower.
No, but it was also very candid and very honest.
Honest indeed. Sources say Trump vented about media coverage, attacking NBC and CNN in particular.
Here we go.
But he also listened to the reporters who argued for improved access. Candidate Trump always wanted the press's attention, but on his own terms. And since Election Day, Trump has repeatedly ditched the press pool. That's the small group of journalists assigned to cover him at all times.
The reason it's important to have a press pool so close is basically because news can happen even when it's not planned.
On Tuesday, he said, I think you'll be happy with his commitment to the First Amendment. He clearly embraces his own free speech, freely blasting the people who cover him.
They're scum. They're horrible people.
Trump said he was in a running war with the media and called journalists among the most dishonest people on earth.
What I've seen is so bad. First of all, the media is so dishonest and so corrupt, and the pile-on is so amazing. The New York Times actually wrote an article about it that they don't even care. It's so dishonest, and they've poisoned the minds of...
I'm running for president. I'm leading in almost all the polls. And they asked me a question about ISIS. And I say to the announcer, I don't really want to answer it. And the next day, these idiots over here say, Trump doesn't know the answer.
He wrote on Facebook, quote, based on the incredibly inaccurate coverage and reporting of the record-setting Trump campaign, we are hereby revoking the press credentials of the phony and dishonest Washington Post. Nancy, what do you make of that?
Well, the Washington Post is in good company because BuzzFeed and Politico and Huffington Post and many other outlets have either at times or continuously been banned from Trump events as well.
One of the things I'm going to do if I win, I'm going to open up our libel laws so when they write purposely negative and horrible and false articles, we can sue them and win lots of money. And you're with Telemundo, and Telemundo should be ashamed. And I'll tell you something, what's really going to be fun? I'm right now suing Univision for $500 million, and I want to tell you, we're going to win a lot of money because of what they do. So I want to just, again, I want to thank you. No, you're finished.
Trump has a question about immigration. Your immigration plan.
Okay, who's next? Yeah, please. Excuse me, sit down. You weren't called. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Go ahead. No, you don't. You haven't been called. Go back to Univision. Go ahead.
You cannot deport 11 million.
Go ahead.
You cannot deport 11 million people. You cannot build a 1900 wall. You cannot deny citizenship to children in this
Sit down, please. You weren't called.
I'm a reporter and don't touch me, sir. Don't touch me.
Go.
You cannot touch me. I have the right to ask a question. I have the right to ask a question.
Yes, go ahead.
That's Jorge Ramos
Hi,
of
Jim,
Univision.
yes.
He's being escorted out of the room. He was asking a question, and Donald Trump says
No, I
he
wouldn't
didn't
do
call
that.
on him. That's why he is being removed. Jorge Ramos refused to back down. Let's listen in.
I don't believe I've ever met him, except he started screaming, and I didn't escort him out. You'll have to talk to security, whoever security has escorted him out. But certainly he was not chosen. I chose you. I chose other people to answer. I mean, you're asking me questions. He just stands up and starts screaming. So, you know, maybe he's at fault also. But I don't consider that. I mean, somebody walked him out. I don't even know where he is.
You're very rude. It's not about you. It's not about.
Get out of my country. Get out.
This is
not
my.
about you.
I'm a U.S. citizen too.
Well, whatever. No, Univision. No, it's not about you.
It's not about you. It's about the United States.
No, it is. It's about the United States.
Donald Trump facing new criticism for something he did on the campaign trail last night in South Carolina while defending his debunked claim that he saw thousands of Muslims celebrate the collapse of the Twin Towers here in New York. He appeared to mock a reporter with a disability. Take a look.
Written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. Oh, maybe that's what I said. This was 14 years ago. They didn't do a retraction.
That reporter he is talking about is Serge Kovaleski, who now works for the New York Times. As you can see right there, he suffers from a chronic condition that impairs movement of his arms. A Times spokesman says they find it outrageous that Trump would ridicule the man's appearance.
Tonight on The Record, it just got stranger than fiction or even reality TV. And on a weirdness scale of 1 to 10, we're now at 15. Now Donald Trump's campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, charged for alleged simple battery of a female reporter. On The Record takes you to Florida, where the simple battery charges were filed. And the Donald Trump campaign is here to respond, plus smart analysis from our On The Record legal panel and our political panel. But right now we hear from Donald Trump himself. He just spoke about the alleged incident involving his campaign manager. Trump speaking on board his 757 in Wisconsin.
Take a look at that, and then, excuse me?
She did get bruises on her arm.
I don't know if they were bruises from that. Why? Who said they were bruises from that? How do you know those bruises weren't there before?
That's what the police.
I don't know what the police said. How do you know those bruises weren't there before? I'm not a lawyer, but she said she had a bruise on her arm. I mean, to me, if you're going to get squeezed, wouldn't you think that she would have yelled out a scream or something if she has bruises on her arm?
Since you're attacking us, can you give us a question? Mr. President-elect. Mr. President-elect, since you are attacking our news organization, can you give us a chance?
Your organization
You are attacking our news organization. Can you give us a chance to ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can you state, Mr. President-elect,
go ahead.
Can you state categorically,
she's asking a question. Don't
Mr. President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
You're attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude. No, I'm not going to give you a question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
Can you state categorically?
Chief White House strategist and former executive of Breitbart News, Stephen Bannon, took a big swing at what he called elite media Wednesday evening. Speaking to the New York Times, Bannon repeatedly called the media the opposition party and dishonest, saying it should keep its mouth shut. The conversation was supposed to be about White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer, but Bannon made it clear he wanted to talk about the media, even telling the paper, "I want you to quote this."
Joining me now is former independent conservative presidential candidate Evan McMullin. Thanks for being here. Really good to see you again.
Great to be with you.
Do you want to respond to what Mr. Bannon had to say to the New York Times about the media?
Well, I think Mr. Bannon and Mr. Trump's attacks on the media are highly dangerous. The media, the press, plays a significant role in our democracy, and in any democracy, they're absolutely critical. And you can have disputes and disagreements over bias and even over points of fact. But to continually attack and try to erode the credibility of the media when it's doing its job, and doing its job well, I would say, in the past week especially, challenging Trump, I think is dangerous. And we're conservatives, but you know what, Jake, this isn't a Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, progressive sort of issue. The protection, our freedom of the press and the importance of the press in our system, the importance of the Constitution, the importance of truth, for heaven's sakes, in democracy and in our republic, are issues that should be bipartisan or nonpartisan. These are things that we should all be able to rally around and protect as Americans. And the time has come, I think, in this country when we do that.
But before I get to the news of the day, I think I'd like to discuss a little bit of the coverage of the past 24 hours. This was the first time in our nation's history that floor coverings have been used to protect the grass in the mall. That had the effect of highlighting any areas where people were not standing, while in years past, the grass eliminated this visual. This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period, both in person and around the globe.
Why put him out there for the very first time in front of that podium to utter a provable falsehood? It's a small thing, but the first time he confronts the public, it's a falsehood?
Chuck, I mean, if we're going to keep referring to our press secretary in those types of terms, I think that we're going to have to rethink our relationship here.
You did not answer the question.
I did answer your question.
No, you did not. You did not answer
the
question of why the president asked the White House press secretary to come out in front of the podium for the first time and utter a falsehood. Why did he do that? It undermines the credibility of the entire White House press office on day one.
Don't be so overly dramatic about it, Chuck. You're saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts to that. But the point remains.
Wait a minute. Alternative facts? Alternative facts. 4 of the 5 facts he uttered. The one thing he got right was Zeke Miller. 4 of the 5 facts he uttered were just not true. Look, alternative facts are not facts. They're falsehoods.
This was about honesty. Well, there's another issue here, though, Reince, and that is the president's honesty, because 2 things that he said yesterday were just flat wrong, and I want to talk about them. First, crowd size. I'm going to take a look at these pictures. We got monitors here.
There's another picture.
Let's take a look at those pictures. On the left, you've got the Obama inaugural crowd. On the right, you've got the Trump inaugural crowd. Which one is bigger?
Listen, you're also not saying that picture was taken before he was even speaking. I mean, I can take a picture of them all right now.
I was there in the mall. I mean, let me say, first of all, I think this is a ridiculous conversation.
Right.
But there were huge areas. He said that there were crowds all the way to the Washington Monument.
There was. I was sitting there. Yes, there was. I was sitting there looking.
Look, I mean, you know what? Put up the picture again. Folks, put up the picture again.
You can keep putting the picture up, but I can take a picture. Look, wait a second. I can take an aerial picture right now, Chris. And I can say, look at the difference. If you're not comparing apples to apples, it doesn't matter.
I'm telling you that there were huge
you can keep telling me what you want to tell me.
All right,
the point is that instead of talking about the substance of what President Trump
You're the ones who did it.
said.
He could have given wait a minute. He could have given a news conference yesterday, talked about the agenda, talked about the signing, the executive actions he's going to sign, his legislative agenda.
They're fed up with those guys back there, the media. They are the worst.